11 of the 15 products labeled free range in this investigation do not deliver what that term means to the person buying them. They are on the free range shelf. They carry the British Lion mark. Several of them show hens in open fields on the front of the box. Several of them use words like happy, natural, and free in their brand names. And every single one of them is legally sold in the United Kingdom as a free-range product. By the end of this investigation, you will know exactly which products come from farms where hens genuinely live outdoors, which ones meet the legal definition while keeping thousands of birds in industrial sheds with minimal outdoor access, and which brand, the one that has built its entire identity around hen happiness, that calls itself the nation's favorite, and that spent 2024 distributing printed booklets explaining its exceptional welfare standards, is currently the subject of a formal complaint to the Competition and Markets Authority for misleading British consumers about the conditions its hens actually live in. After purchasing all 15 products from Tesco's, Sainsbury's, Waitrose, Aldi, Lidl, and the Co-op, cross-referencing every welfare claim against UK egg marketing standards and independent investigation findings, reviewing the production records and certification history of each brand, and examining the legislative changes made to free-range labeling rules in January 2025, here is what the cartons are not telling you. Free-range eggs now represent almost 80% of all retail egg sales in the United Kingdom. That figure has more than doubled since 2004, when free-range accounted for 32% of the market. The value of that market now exceeds £2 billion per year. British families spend more on free-range eggs than on caged or barn eggs combined, by a significant margin, and that gap has been growing every year for 2 decades. That growth has been driven by one thing: consumers choosing to pay more because they believe and the hens that laid their eggs lived better lives. What this investigation found is that in the majority of cases, the gap between that belief and the documented reality of production is not a matter of interpretation. It is a matter of scale, of density, and of a legal definition that was written to protect industry costs, rather than to protect the image it creates in the mind of the shopper. The United Kingdom has some of the most welfare-conscious egg consumers in the world. It also has free-range regulations that permit 9 hens per square meter inside a shed. The same density as the barn system. The term free-range is supposed to be better than, and flocks of up to 16,000 birds per farm. Both of those things are true. The carton shows you one of them. Before we get to the products, you need to understand what free range actually means in law, because the term that sells almost 80% of British eggs was not designed to describe what most people imagine when they picture a hen in a field. Under UK egg marketing standards, retained from EU legislation after Brexit and still in force, free range means one specific thing. Hens must have continuous daytime access to outdoor runs, and those runs must be mainly covered with vegetation. The maximum outdoor stocking density is 2,500 birds per hectare. That is 1 hen per 4 square meters of outdoor space. Inside the shed, the maximum density is 9 hens per square meter, the same upper limit as the barn system. The indoor-only alternative that free range is supposed to be an improvement on. Flocks of up to 16 birds per farm are legal under this definition. There is no minimum number of hours hens must actually spend outside. The requirement is access, not use. A hen that never leaves the shed because dominant birds are blocking the pop holes is not a welfare violation. It is a legal free-range hen. The outdoor runs must be mainly covered with vegetation. In practice, this means that a range that is predominantly bare mud with scattered patches of grass passes the standard. In practice, vegetation degrades rapidly under the feet of thousands of birds. In practice, the requirement is assessed at setup, not monitored continuously throughout the laying cycle. Every egg sold in the UK must carry a stamped code on the shell. The first digit tells you everything the law requires you to know about the production method. 0 is organic, 1 is free range, 2 is barn, 3 is caged. After that digit comes the country code, UK for a British egg, and a unique farm registration number that is, in theory, traceable to the specific farm where that egg was laid. That code is the most honest thing on the packaging. It is also the smallest. It is stamped in ink on the shell in a font that most people have never looked at. The imagery on the front of the carton is designed to be looked at. The code on the egg is designed to satisfy a regulatory requirement. The British Lion mark appears on approximately 90% of UK eggs. It guarantees vaccination against salmonella and adherence to a code of food safety practice. It does not guarantee outdoor access. It does not guarantee space. It does not guarantee that the hen that laid the egg has ever stood on grass. It is a biosecurity mark, not a welfare mark, and the two are not the same thing. This distinction matters because the British Lion mark is prominently displayed on the front of almost every egg carton on every British supermarket shelf, and most consumers do not know what it does and does not mean. RSPCA Assured is a different standard. It requires farms to go beyond the legal minimum, lower stocking densities, enrichment provisions, access to outdoor space, and involves independent auditing. The RSPCA standards for laying hens require that stocking density not exceed 2 hens per hectare over the life of the flock, and not exceed 20,100 at any one time, marginally better than the legal maximum. They require at least 20% natural cover on the outdoor range. They prohibit beak trimming in certain circumstances. They require perches, nests, and enrichment materials. They represent a genuine step above the legal minimum. In 2024, that step was found to be insufficient. In June 2024, the Animal Justice Project published drone footage taken above farms certified under the RSPCA Assured scheme. The footage showed hens that did not leave their sheds on any of the 4 days they were observed. The same investigation documented overcrowded conditions and basic needs described as neglected. The RSPCA suspended 3 farms and subsequently reinstated them. The farms under investigation were confirmed suppliers to Asda, Tesco, Marks & Spencer, and Happy Egg Co. Brian May resigned as RSPCA vice president in September 2024. Chris Packham, the charity's president, called publicly for the suspension of the RSPCA Assured scheme itself. The scheme was not suspended. The farms were reinstated. The products remained on sale. Then, in January 2025, the UK government changed the law. Previously, when mandatory bird flu housing orders forced free-range hens indoors, their eggs could only continue to be labeled free-range for 16 weeks. After that, the eggs had to be relabeled as barn eggs, an inconvenient and costly process for producers. In both the 2021 to 2022 and the 2022 to 2023 bird flu outbreaks, the confinement period exceeded 16 weeks, by 6 weeks and 7 weeks, respectively. Industry lobbied a lot for the limit to be removed. The consultation on that removal attracted 49 responses from members of the public. The 2025 amendment removed the 16-week limit entirely. Free-range eggs can now be labeled as such for the full duration of any mandatory housing order, however long it lasts. During the 2024 to 2025 bird flu season, some flocks in East Anglia were housed continuously from December 23rd. Those eggs, laid by hens that had not seen the outdoors for months, were sold to British consumers as free-range. The law now requires no disclosure of this fact on the packaging. The government described the change as reducing unnecessary red tape. Only 49 members of the public responded to the consultation that preceded it. A baroness, debating the legislation in the House of Lords, described that number as astonishingly small, given that consumers are, in her words, very exercised about the conditions in which poultry are kept. That is the system inside which all 15 products in this investigation operate. And within that system, the differences between them are significant. But they are differences of degree within a category that was defined by industry, audited by bodies that depend on industry cooperation, and recently made more permissive by a government responding to industry pressure. 3 of the 15 products in this investigation do what the packaging claims. The hens have documented outdoor access. The welfare standard goes beyond the legal minimum. The code on the shell matches the story on the carton. We start here, because without a baseline, nothing that follows has a point of comparison. Clarence Court Burford, brown free-range eggs. Produced for Clarence Court, Lacock Green, Lacock, Wiltshire. The Burford Brown is a traditional breed developed from a crossbreeding program begun in 1928, when botanist and explorer Clarence Elliott brought jungle fowl back from Patagonia to Stow-on-the-Wold, Gloucestershire. The packaging states that the hens roam free from dawn until dusk, across what it describes as acres of England's green and pleasant land. and that they graze on a maize-enriched diet. The code on the shell reads 1UK, confirming free range, British production, followed by a traceable farm registration number, British Lion Quality Certified. The eggs sell at Tesco for approximately £3, 50 to £4 for 6, among the most expensive on any UK supermarket shelf. One detail Clarence Court does not mention on the front of the box: the deep golden yolk color that distinguishes the Burford Brown and commands that price premium is produced in part by adding marigolds and paprika to the hen's feed. The color is real. It is the product of diet, not deception, in the sense that the hen genuinely consumes these additions. But the distinctive yolk that the premium price is built around is not purely a product of the hen's natural outdoor life. It is engineered through feed composition. That information does not appear on the front of the carton. It does not appear anywhere on the carton. The front of the carton says the hens graze on the best maize-enriched diet. What it does not say is that the result of that diet, the golden yolk, is the primary visual justification for a price that is roughly 3 times the price of the cheapest free-range eggs on the same shelf. That is not illegal. It is, however, the kind of thing this investigation exists to surface, because it illustrates, in miniature, the central dynamic of the entire free-range egg market, the gap between the story the packaging tells and the full picture the producer holds. The second product is Waitrose own-brand free-range eggs. Waitrose stopped selling caged eggs in 2001 and became the first UK supermarket to stock only free-range in 2008, 17 years before the industry's voluntary 2025 deadline. The brand's published welfare commitments state that none of its hens, including those laying its basic, essential tier eggs, have their beaks trimmed. Beak trimming is legal in UK egg production and is standard practice across the majority of commercial free-range flocks. It involves the removal or reduction of part of the beak to prevent injurious pecking in densely housed birds. Its widespread use is, in itself, an acknowledgement that the conditions of industrial free-range production create stress behaviors in birds that are not managed through space and enrichment alone. Waitrose's commitment to eliminate beak trimming entirely across its supply chain, and to have maintained that commitment since 2008, is verifiable and documented. British Lion Quality Certified. CSA assured on higher welfare tiers. The third product is Waitrose Dutchy Organic, laid by British Blacktail hens certified to Soil Association organic standards, smaller flock sizes than conventional free-range, larger outdoor ranges than free-range legal minimums. The Soil Association requires a minimum of 10 square meters of outdoor space per hen, compared to 4 square meters under the free-range legal standard. Fed an organically produced diet, with no routine use of antibiotics and no GM ingredients. The Soil Association certification requires independent auditing that goes substantially beyond RSPCA assured, itself already above the legal minimum. The price reflects all of this, but the chain from the hen to the carton is, in this investigation, the most verifiably intact of any product on the shelf. These 3 products share a characteristic that is absent from most of what follows. The front of the carton and the independently verified reality of production are describing the same thing. That alignment is rarer on this shelf than the price premium these products charge might suggest. But the gap between these 3 and the next group is not about fraud. It is about the distance between meeting a legal standard and communicating what that standard actually means in practice. And in the next section, that distance starts to open. The next 4 products are all legally free-range. The code on the shell reads 1. The cartons show hens in fields. The British Lion mark is present. And all 4 of them are produced within a system that the law permits, but the packaging does not fully describe. Tesco finds free-range eggs. Marks & Spencer free-range eggs. Sainsbury's own brand free-range eggs. Asda free-range eggs. 4 products from 4 of the largest supermarket chains in the United Kingdom. Each one carries imagery of open space, natural light, and contented hens. Each one meets the legal definition of free range. Each one uses RSPCA assured as its primary welfare credential above the legal minimum. And each one is sourced from a supply chain that, in 2024, was directly implicated in one of the most significant animal welfare investigations in the recent history of British egg production. In June 2024, The Animal Justice Project published drone footage taken above farms certified under the RSPCA Assured scheme. The footage showed hens that did not leave their sheds on any of the 4 days they were observed. Not on any of the 4 days. On farms that were independently audited and RSPCA certified. On farms supplying products that carry RSPCA Assured logos on the front of their cartons, the same investigation documented overcrowded conditions and described basic needs as neglected. The RSPCA suspended 3 farms. All 3 were subsequently reinstated. None of these 4 supermarkets withdrew their free-range eggs from sale. None of them changed their packaging. None of them issued a public statement explaining to consumers what had happened at their certified supplier, farms, what the findings of the investigation were, or what assurances they were seeking before reinstating those suppliers. The legal position of each product remained unchanged throughout. The code on the shell continued to read 1. The RSPCA Assured logo remained on the front of the carton. The hens in the fields on the packaging continued to look happy. The legal minimum is 9 hens per square meter indoors. The legal minimum outdoor density is 2,500 birds per hectare. A flock of 16 and birds on a single farm is legal. A hen that never goes outside because dominant birds block the pop holes is not a violation of any standard. A range that is bare, muddy, and undervegetated is not a violation of any standard because the vegetation requirement is assessed at the point of establishment, not monitored continuously. All of these things can coexist with a carton that shows a hen standing in sunshine on a green hillside, legally, without any obligation to disclose the gap. That gap is not unique to one retailer or some supplier, it is structural. It is the predictable consequence of a system where the welfare standard is defined at the minimum, the verification is intermittent and announced in advance, and the packaging is designed to communicate an aspiration rather than a condition. The 4 products that follow did not merely operate at the margins of the standard in 2024. They used that margin as a business model. The 4 products in this section share a characteristic that is worth stating clearly before we examine them individually. None of them are illegal. None of them are fraudulent. Code on every shell reads 1. The hens have outdoor access as defined by law. Every carton carries the British Lion mark, and every carton uses imagery, language, or brand positioning that communicates something the legal standard does not require, and the production system does not guarantee. Little Birchwood free-range eggs, Co-op own brand free-range eggs, Morrison's own brand free-range eggs, Aldi specially selected free-range eggs. 4 products from 4 retailers whose combined market presence means these are among the most purchased free-range eggs in the United Kingdom. Volume. Lidl announced a £1 billion investment into free-range egg production following a 34% increase in its free-range egg sales and established its own producer group with long-term cost of production contracts and funding for new sheds. Co-op stopped selling caged eggs in 2010. 15 years before the industry's voluntary 2025 deadline. Both retailers have built public identities around responsible sourcing. The branding on their free-range eggs reflects that identity. The production system behind that branding operates under the same legal minimum as every other product in this section. The question this investigation asks of each of them is the same question it asks of every product on this shelf. Not whether the hens have outdoor access on paper, but whether the outdoor access is meaningful in practice, and whether the packaging communicates the production reality or a pastoral idea of it. The legal standard permits 2,500 hens per hectare outdoors. It does not require that hens actually use the outdoor space, only that it is available. Studies of free-range hen behavior in commercial flock settings consistently show that in large flocks, a significant proportion of birds never venture far from the shed. Poholes, the exits through which hens access outdoor range, create bottlenecks. Dominant birds monopolize access. Shire birds, lower in the pecking order, may remain indoors throughout the day, even when the pop holes are open. The law requires 1 pop hole for every 600 birds. In a flock of 16,000, that is 26 pop holes. For 16,000 birds, the regulation does not address the behavioral reality of what happens at those 26 exits on a cold or wet day. The packaging does not mention it. Noble Foods, the UK's largest egg producer, simultaneously supplies the Happy Egg Co. brand and announced plans for Vencomatic multi-tiered barn size systems housing 96 hens per unit as part of its cage-free transition. That figure 96, Susan birds in a single building, represents a scale of industrial production that has no visible relationship to the images on any egg carton currently sold in any British supermarket. It is not illegal. It is the direction the industry is moving. And the labeling system will continue to describe the output as free-range, barn, or organic depending only on whether the legal access thresholds are met, not on what the experience of 96 hens sharing a building actually looks like. The code on the shell says, the hen may not have seen daylight in months. Both of those things are now simultaneously true and legal in England. That is the gap. It is not between one product and another. It is between what the term promises and what the system is designed to deliver. The three products in this section occupy the middle tier of the free-range market, priced above the basic own brand options, below the premium certified products, and positioned in a space where the packaging works hardest to justify the price differential. They are not the cheapest eggs on the shelf. They are not the most welfare certified. They are the products where the distance between what the carton communicates and what the legal standard actually requires is most commercially productive. Basic free-range eggs. Sainsbury's basic free-range eggs, Morrison's the best free-range eggs. All three carry the British Lion mark. All three are labeled free-range. All three use packaging imagery that communicates pastoral conditions, hens in natural light, green backgrounds, language of countryside and care. And all three are produced within a supply chain that the 2024 Animal Justice Project investigations demonstrated, at the RSPCA assured level, was not delivering the outdoor access the imagery implies. The specific issue is scale. The legal free-range standard permits flocks of up to 16,000 birds per farm. At that scale, the relationship between a hen and the outdoor space available to it is not pastoral, it is statistical. The 500 birds per hectare outdoor maximum means that in a flock of 16,000, the legally required outdoor range is 6.4 hectares. That is approximately 12 football pitches for 16,000 birds. The image on the carton typically shows one hen. The production reality involves thousands. Tesco's own Animal Health and Welfare Report for 2024 to 2025 confirmed that 83% of its shell eggs were cage-free, which means 17% were not, as recently as 2024. The transition to full cage-free has not been completed. The free-range labeling on the cage-free portion continues regardless of conditions at individual farms. The more significant problem is not the percentage that falls short of the commitment. It is the presentation of the majority that technically qualifies. When a product is legally free-range, priced at a premium above barn eggs, and packaged with imagery that implies something closer to the Dutchy Organic or Clarence Court experience, the consumer is being asked to pay for a gap in quality that the standard does not enforce, and the supply chain does not consistently deliver. In the premium own brand tier, Morrison's the best, the positioning goes further. The branding implies a selection process, a quality threshold, a product that has been chosen rather than merely produced to minimum specification. The welfare standard behind it is the same legal minimum as the basic tier. The difference is the box. The price reflects the box. That is not unique to Morrison's. It is the structural logic of the free-range premium across the entire middle market. The certification does not change between the basic and the premium own brand tier. What changes is the typography, the photography, and the retail margin. The consumer pays more. The hen receives the same legal minimum of access to outdoor space that every other Code 1 product provides. Happy Egg Co. is described by its parent company, Noble Foods, as the nation's favorite egg brand. Noble Foods describes itself as the UK's leading egg producer. The brand was launched in 2009 with a single proposition, that its hens were happier than other free-range hens, and that this happiness was visible, documented, and worth paying for. The packaging delivers on that proposition with unusual thoroughness. Illustrated hens, sunshine, green fields with trees. The tagline, "A happy hen makes a happy egg." Marketing that does not merely claim free-range status but position itself as the answer to the question of what free range should look like. In 2024, the brand produced and distributed an actual printed booklet, the Happy Egg Playbook, explaining the exceptional welfare standards applied to its hens. In the same year, it partnered with a celebrity farming influencer to create content showcasing the day-to-day care given to the company's hens, underlining, in the brand's own words, why not all free-range farms are created equal. The campaign was specifically designed to differentiate the Happy Egg Co. from generic free-range production. The message was that the Happy Egg Co. was better. In 2024, PETA Yuk visited 3 farms supplying eggs to the Happy Egg Co. What their investigators found was this: hens in large, overcrowded sheds. Conditions that the investigators said could prevent birds from engaging in natural behaviors. Foraging, wing flapping, comfortable roosting. Outdoor space at one farm described as bare, muddy ground with only a few dilapidated wooden shelters available. On all 3 farms, the corpses of dead birds had been left among the living. Noble Foods responded that the welfare of their hens was their highest priority, that each hen had daily access to ranges for 8 hours or more, that their ranges provided a minimum of 20% tree cover, which was significantly above free-range standards, and that all housing met or exceeded RSPCA-assured standards. They pointed to an Advertising Standards Authority investigation in 2021 that had found their welfare claims to be substantiated. That ASA finding is accurate and important. In 2021, the investigated Happy Egg Co.'s claims about acres of field foliage and trees following a complaint by PETA, and concluded that those claims had been substantiated. The farms, on balance, exceeded RSPCA-assured minimum standards for natural cover. The vast majority had at least 20% natural cover. The test passed. The test passed because the test was designed around what is auditable at an announced visit, not around what is observable from a drone on a random day, and not around whether birds whose beaks have been trimmed and who live in sheds of several thousand are experiencing something that a reasonable person, looking at the packaging, would describe as happiness. In April 2025, the animal welfare organization A Bit Weird filed a formal complaint against Happy Egg Co. with the Competition and Markets Authority. This was the first complaint of its kind under new consumer protection powers granted to the CMA that same day, powers that allow the CMA to determine whether consumer protection laws have been breached without going through the courts. The complaint alleged a fundamental disconnect between the joyful, healthy hens portrayed in the brand's marketing and the reality of life for hens on its farms, and characterized this as a violation of UK consumer protection laws. A Bit Weird's founder noted that 74% of UK adults consider animal welfare when deciding which groceries to buy, and that brands therefore have a powerful commercial incentive to communicate welfare that may not fully reflect reality. The CMA complaint remains active. Noble Foods simultaneously announced plans for Vencomatic multi-tiered barn systems, housing 96,000 hens per unit. The Happy Egg Co. is not the worst welfare performer in this investigation by the metrics this investigation can verify. Its declared average stocking density of 1,973 birds per hectare is better than the legal maximum of 2,500. Its tree cover commitment exceeds the RSPCA minimum. Its audited farms on announced inspection days meet the standards they are audited against. That is precisely the problem. The gap between the emotional promise the brand sells, happiness, freedom, green fields, a hen that matters, and the industrial scale at which it operates is not a gap any certification mark was designed to close. The RSPCA standard was designed to be achievable at commercial scale. The Happy Egg Co. brand was designed to communicate something that transcends commercial scale. The distance between those two things is where 15 years of marketing investment lives, and it is, for the first time, what a formal regulatory body has been asked to examine. The most purchased free-range brand in the United Kingdom is not the one that delivers the most welfare. It is the one that communicates it most effectively. The carton shows you a happy hen. The code on the shell shows you a 1. The Food Standards Agency does not regulate welfare claims on egg packaging. The FSA's remit is food safety, salmonella, contamination, traceability of food crime. When a carton shows a hen in a sunlit field, and the hen has not been outside in 3 months because of a mandatory housing order, that is not a food safety matter. It is a labeling matter. It falls to the Advertising Standards Authority, and to trading standards. Bodies that respond to complaints rather than proactively auditing the relationship between imagery and production reality across an entire category. The ASA investigated Happy Egg Co.'s welfare claims in 2021 and found them substantiated. The farms technically exceeded RSPCA minimum standards for natural cover. The test passed because the test was designed around what is auditable, not around what consumer purchasing that carton in a supermarket could reasonably conclude about the hen's experience. No major egg brand in the United Kingdom has been sanctioned for misleading welfare claims on its packaging. The CMA complaint against Happy Egg Co., filed in April 2025, is the first formal attempt to use consumer protection law rather than advertising standards to address the gap between marketing and reality in this category. It remains active and unresolved. In France and Germany, the term free range carries additional practical weight because organic certification frameworks and regional designations create verifiable production standards that go beyond the minimum. Outdoor density requirements are more stringent in practice. Auditing structures are more rigorous. The Soil Association Organic Standard, applied in the UK, represents the closest equivalent, which is why 2 of the 3 products that pass this investigations test carry Soil Association certification or equivalent organic standard. The legal free-range minimum, without additional certification, is a floor, not a description of what happens above it. The January 2025 amendment to free-range egg marketing standards went further in the wrong direction. It removed the requirement to relabel eggs during mandatory bird flu confinement, a requirement that, imperfect as it was, at least created a signal to consumers when hens had been kept indoors for an extended period. Hens that have not been outside since December can now be legally sold as free-range in England indefinitely, with no obligation to communicate that fact on the packaging. The government called this streamlining. For the consumer, it means the term on the carton has one fewer connection to the experience of the hen. Here is what you can do in 10 seconds at the shelf. Look at the code stamped on the egg itself, not the carton, the egg. The first digit is the only number in this entire category that the producer cannot choose or present as something it is not. 0 means organic, a standard that requires independent auditing, lower stocking densities, a minimum of 10 square meters of outdoor space per hen, and an organically produced diet. It is not a guarantee of perfect welfare, but it is the most independently verified standard available on the retail egg shelf. 1 means free range, legal access to outdoor space, up to 9 hens per square meter indoors, up to 2,500 birds per hectare outdoors, no minimum hours outside. And since January 2025 in England, no time limit on indoor confinement during disease outbreaks. 2 means barn, 3 means caged. If the first digit is 1 and nothing else on the carton, indicates a verified welfare standard above the legal minimum, no soil association, certification, no independently audited organic standard. Then the pastoral image on the front of the box is a marketing choice, not a production description. It may be a legal marketing choice, it may be a sincere one, but it is not a verified one. The 3 products in the investigation that do what the packaging claims all have something in common. Clarence Court Burford Brown, traceable traditional breed farm, verifiable outdoor access from dawn to dusk, British Lions certified, and, in the interests of full disclosure, yolk color enhanced through feed composition that the packaging does not mention. Waitrose own brand. No beak trimming across the entire supply chain, cage-free since 2008, welfare commitments that predate the industry's voluntary deadline, 17 years, Waitrose Dutchy Organic, Soil Association certified, smaller flocks, 10 square meters of outdoor space per hen, independently audited to the highest retail standard available. All 3 cost more than a Code 1 carton with a field on the front. On a per-egg basis, the premium is real. On a welfare basis, so is the difference. The investigation that would change the rest of this shelf heap is not one this channel can conduct alone. It requires mandatory front-of-carton stocking density disclosure, so that every carton states the number of birds per hectare, not just the production method. It requires enforceable minimum outdoor access hours rather than theoretical access provisions that the law does not monitor. It requires a certification system that can be withdrawn when farms fail inspection, and that stays withdrawn pending full remediation not reinstated within weeks. And it requires that when mandatory housing orders are in force, cartons carry a clear statement that the hens are currently confined indoors. 3 reforms, none of which the Food Standards Agency has recommended, none of which the government has legislated, all of which would make the code on the shelves mean what the carton already claims it does. That investigation has been published on this channel. The link is in the description.